Hello, and you're very welcome to another edition of the JMO podcast. I'm John Mann, and of course, this podcast is sponsored by orgrector.com. Use my promo code JMO podcast to get 15% off on their website. And we are here today to talk about the weekend's action just gone in and this weekend's action. So, really looking forward to it. And of course, you have the Munster senior final this weekend, and you have the Connacht senior final this weekend as well. So, we're really looking forward to it this weekend. And today I'm joined by former Armagh keeper Paul Hearty and former Cork All-Star Daniel Goulding. So I suppose before we start the podcast, lads, we'd want to send our sincere condolences to Brendan O'Duffy's family, friends, teammates, absolutely everyone. It was absolutely tragic there on Friday night, and I think we all woke up to the news on Saturday about Brendan's tragic passing. So our sincere condolences to Brendan and family. And I suppose, Daniel, what can you really say about that?
There's nothing more to be said really. It's just absolutely devastating. By the sounds of it, an absolute great young fella, a leader beyond his years. I suppose very happy time for him coming home from a great win, looking forward to Ulster final, and that just shows how fragile and precious life is. And I suppose to be taken at such a young age, and we'd all have complaints and be giving out about how match results go and this and that, and looking back in games. But I suppose this puts the whole thing in perspective. Very sad for the J community, his club and county, and obviously his family and friends, first and foremost. Just devastating, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about yourself, Paul? Brendan O'Duffy's passing.
Yeah, it was tragic news to learn of the other morning. But you know, football at the weekend will probably come second to what life and the journey that man had ahead of him. And judging by all reports and listening to Bandy McEnany talking about him, he had a huge future in Monaghan football. Great young fella. He was the captain of the team, and you know, I think when Banty said that 24 to the 30 of the panel voted for him, I think that's a huge statement, and sort of the stature of the guy as he moved up through the age groups. It's an awful loss for Monaghan, for Clontarf, and for his family. And you know, our condolences go out. It's an awful station to be at, and hopefully, you know, the community will rally round the Duffy family at this tough time and bring them through and give them strength.
Yeah, 100%, and a nice tribute, lads. And again, our sincere condolences to Brendan and family. I can't really understand. We can't probably think to know what they're going through. So our thoughts and prayers are with them at this time. So I suppose moving on to less important matters, the football at the weekend, lads. In the first game of the weekend, you had Armagh against Monaghan. Armagh 2-21, Monaghan 4-17. An absolutely terrific game of football here, Paul. And I suppose starting off, it was cagey. It had everything at the end. It was an exciting finish. Armagh got back into it. I suppose Monaghan had a really impressive start. So, Paul, this was nearly like the Munster Championship.
Yeah, I suppose the first thing I'd probably say, bitterly disappointed as an Armagh man. We were going into the game with a huge probably expectation of making steps and strides forward into an Ulster final. We certainly knew we were up against it. We had no illusions probably of you know the toughness of what Monaghan would bring to the table, and we just seemed to get probably a wee bit caught in the headlights at the start. You know, the goals obviously really put us to the sword early on, and Monaghan were very ruthless in how they took their goals. And you know, I suppose I felt that our full back line, you know, probably Morgan and McKay were probably a wee bit exposed in that half. We were probably maybe a half yard off the ball at the same time, and Monaghan just seemed to find the spaces at the right times, and they just took that. They were clinical with their chances, and they smelled blood at that stage, and 4 goals. It really put Armagh on the back foot. But you know, unbelievable, I suppose. You know, mental strength from Armagh. You know, the boys got back, got their head together, screwed on, and really came back at the game. And some of the changes I think that Gazer made a good impact. Obviously, Torbert come on, scored 1-1, very brave for the goal. Great ball in. Rian O'Neill took the game by the scruff of the neck, was absolutely outstanding. Tiernan Kelly come on, got a goal. Ross McQuillan come on, got a goal. Armagh subs come on and scored 1-3. Armagh's game probably everything else except probably from that first half or that mad period where they conceded the 4 goals. Everything else didn't go too bad, but we left ourselves too much to do, and then unfortunately, we got back into the game a couple of points ahead, and a bit of I suppose cuteness from McManus and to get a couple of frees not there, and he put them away in the end. But it was a hell of a game, unbelievable game. The scoring rate was phenomenal. I think probably the conditions probably played into that a wee bit. It was unbelievable warm. I was going into Newry on that morning. Actually, I had to go into Newry that morning, but probably not that morning, 1 o'clock, and it was reading 30 degrees in the car, and God knows what it was at 4 o'clock. So it was unbelievably warm. I don't know, fair play to the players. We're going through that, brilliant performance to go hell for leather for that length of time and to put their bodies in the line for so long. But, it just wasn't to be on the day. And, some pivotal moments did swing it Monaghan's way. And, it really, it's just very disappointing at the end of the game, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose you did reference the man, Conor McManus, Paul. He's 34. His hips have kind of always been at him, and he keeps coming up with the goods, Paul. So a word on Conor McManus and the impact that man has on this Monaghan team. Yeah,
unbelievable. 1-7, 5 frees. You can't take your eyes off him for a minute. Like he's been coming up with these scores at pivotal moments in games, for years now. He's basically Dashie McConville was to Armagh years ago. He's doing that now for Monaghan. He mightn't have the legs he once have, but by God, you give him the ball in the scoring zone, and he's going for the jugular every time. He's a fantastic player. We all know that. He cannot be watched, and you can't take your eye off him. And James did admirably well, I suppose, on him for as long as he could. But it's just a measure of the man that he. Every time he's asked to, he delivers for Monaghan, and he never lets them down. And he was fantastic, and he was ably assisted. Jack McCarron was a handful too. Stephen O'Hanlon, when he come on, brought great zest and pace to the thing. But as you say, perfect. Any man for the come at the hour, come at the man. McManus steps up, and the pressure's at his highest, and he executed it excellently. And so, fair dues to Conor.
Definitely. And I suppose, Paul, what can Armagh take from this game? Obviously, they weren't far away. I suppose Monaghan did let them back into it. They played with real flair. The Oisin O'Neill really stepped up for Armagh. Kieran McKinney didn't seem overly disheartened after the game. I know he was disappointed, but you really can't build serious blocks from that, Paul.
I definitely take a lot of positives from the game. Apart from a few bits and pieces, the goals obviously that killed us at the start of the game. We were well in the game. Like, to come back from 7 and 8 points down for so long, and then to bring it level and actually go. I think we actually went 2 up at one stage. If we hadn't have such a rough start, we would have been well in the game. Probably if we had to keep neck and neck with Monaghan throughout the first half and keep steady the ship, and to maybe a wee bit more experience, which. All this will garner experience for that team. It'll build a bit of hurt in the bank. It'll give them a bit of, what's it like to lose a tough game. Maybe you have to lose a couple of tough games like this here for you to really to get over the line. I remember years ago, in the noughties, we lost 4 games before to the 4 eventual All-Ireland winning teams before we actually went on to win an All-Ireland ourselves. So. It sometimes you need a wee bit of tough medicine to bring you to the next level, and that was a tough one to take for the boys on Saturday evening. And even as a former player, looking back, I was sick as a hospital there watching the game, and I knew what it'd be like getting into that changing room and how close we did come to getting to an Ulster final the first time since 2008. So we can take positives that game. We can use the hurt. Use that going forward in the next year, and if it should be motivation going in the next year that we aren't that far away, few changes, a few bits and pieces to some bits of play and maybe tactics and that there. And we could be up at the top table next year again, maybe into an Ulster final and get into hopefully back in probably Super League, or the Super 8 could be back next year, and that's where you want to be.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Armagh could really take great desire from that game. And I suppose, Daniel, what did you make of it? I know you the draw back.
I sure did. No, I don't know if I've run it. It was looking good at a couple of minutes left. Look, super game. Game of the season so far. Not your traditional Ulster Championship game. Very high scoring. Both teams just going at it. Look, I was actually probably more impressed with Armagh. I think, look, they had a couple of mistakes at the back that led to soft goals, and I think Armagh probably played the better football overall for the hour. In fairness to Geezer there, the use of the long ball was very refreshing, and just the ability of O'Neill to slap ball into the full forward, and you saw Torber get a goal after him. Just the no fear approach of how they played was very refreshing to watch. Look, when they got themselves back into it, I just think a little bit of experience caught them in the last couple of minutes. I suppose they're probably not in that team is very young, haven't been in that position before, and I think, look, the one thing everyone knows is that when McManus is coming on a loop with a couple of seconds left, you can't touch him, because if he gets a touch, he's going to go down. And I suppose both the tackles were, when he hadn't a shot on, they were probably just a small bit overzealous. And of course, like no better man, in fairness, than just a very intelligent Q forward, earned his frees. And I suppose once he earned them, they were both tough kicks, but he wasn't going to miss them. As Paul said, when he gets the opportunity to close out games, he doesn't miss. And just thought a small bit of naivety really in the end cost him. And look, again, super game. It just reminds me anyway, I'd never played county football in this time anyway. Just pace and power, the two Ulster Championship games is just phenomenal. And the Ulster Championship this year, you'll be delighted. It's really, it's really saving the whole championship, really, with all the other provinces and kind of non-events games. And look, we got two brilliant semi-finals again this weekend.
Yeah, definitely, Daniel. I suppose I have to ask you about Monaghan's Jack McCarran. You were watching on, I'd say, Daniel, a serious left foot Jack has, and a great brain for the game.
Yeah, look, and I suppose Jack's a fella. He might be short half a yard of pace as well, but again, it's his football brain and his skill and his talent that, he's more than comfortable there and leading Monaghan along with Conor McManus. And look, he's had a fair share of injuries as well, and showed like great commitment and drive to get back and get up to the level he's at again. Look, and it's nice to see the likes of him in an Ulster final now as well. He's been in and out of the team. 1 minute when Conor was not there, he's the lead man, and then the next time he could be on the bench. So look, just reward for him too. Look, and I'm sure Conor McCarthy was taken off before half time. You don't see that too often, and you'd imagine that that'll rattle his cage before the final also.
Yeah, definitely. An absolutely brilliant game with Saturday, and fair play to Monaghan playing the game as well, because it could not have been easy for the Monaghan gents. So on the go to the Ulster final against Tyrone now on the 31st of July in Croke Park, and in the next game in Ulster on Sunday, you Tyrone against Donegal. Tyrone coming out winners here. Tyrone 23 points, Donegal's 114, and I suppose, Daniel, Tyrone are peaking at the right time.
Yeah, they are. Look, just saw when you went to your bench and you can bring on McKenna, Tiernan McCann. Look, they've Cathal McShane. Just shows that their squad is fairly stacked at the moment. Again, very enjoyable game, end to end, tough, lots of turnovers at the back, some great scores. Suppose the game hinged really on Michael Murphy missing the penalty and then getting sent off a minute or two later. Could have probably said that it was fairly close up to that, and maybe Donegal were even in the driving seat, and that would have put them up 4, I think, that penalty. And it might have been hard to see Tyrone come back into it then. Was a sending off, I think, to be fair. I think the first one was a high tackle, and the second one he just mistimed it, but he caught him. I don't think he can have any complaints. But we all know how good footballers Tyrone are, and they just took advantage of the extra man, and got some great scores, really. I think Kieran McGarry was super. Look, pace, power, gave them trouble all day. Sludden was playing nearly as a half-back, stroke wing forward on the right-hand side of the pitch, gave them awful trouble as well. And Darren McCurry's had a couple of wides, but is lethal up front. And like, you could hear the BBC commentators asking him would he produce in a big game, and look, he sure did here. 4 from play. And I suppose the big question for Tyrone going forward will be, if they meet the likes of a Kerry or Dublin, defensively will they be able to hold up? And that's a challenge for another day, but I think they were well worth their victory on Sunday.
Yeah, 100%. And I suppose, Daniel, tell me about Michael Murphy's sending off as well. Like, did he look fit? Was it a bit of a flailing leg? He just threw at it. Look, I suppose watching on, Michael Murphy just did not look like he was at the races on Sunday, Daniel.
Yeah, look, I was watching the game, and it dawned on me that I'd say after 20 minutes was his first kind of time on the ball, and I suppose he's been injured with the last couple of weeks, and he's a lot of miles on the clock. And I suppose if it's very hard to come into a rapid fire season, we'll call it, being injured, coming off, then expecting to pick it up for a couple of weeks' time, and probably just found it hard to get to the pace of it. As I said, I thought it was a sending off. First tackle was high. No, it was just a second late, but it was still high. And the second one was, again, a second late, and he just caught him with a kick. But look, Michael Murphy owes nothing to Donegal or to the country, really. He's, been one of the best footballers of all time for the last 10, 12 years, carried Donegal on his back for numerous years. And look, I've no doubt that I'd assume he'll be going again for the next few years, and once his body's right, I'm sure he'll be the lead man for them again. But as I said, when championship games are at that pace and you're half injured or not at 100 or even 90%, it's very difficult.
Absolutely. And Daniel, lastly on it, Tyrone's forward dynamic. You have Darren McCurry just in the corner. You have Matty Donnelly coming through the middle, and you have Kieran McGarry supporting the play up front as well. So they're moving very well up there, Daniel. Yeah,
look, there's serious forwards up there, and they all have pace. And you've Conor Moyler then working hard around the trenches, and Peter Hart coming forward as well. And just very, very clever with these pop little passes into the forwards to their advantage. And I suppose they look like they're taking a small leaf out of Dublin's book. They're moving the ball very fast. There's always a runner off the shoulder, and I suppose they're not getting caught by the blanket defence as much as they used to, and they're not as individual as they used to be. Like, I think 2 years ago, it was literally Cotton McShane was up front and everyone was behind the ball. But look, Brian Doran, the lads in charge, have changed it up a bit, and they're a lot more dynamic going forward. And there's no denying the talent they have up front.
Yeah, definitely. And Paul, what about yourself? You're obviously having a key eye in this game.
Yeah, I watched the game. Surely, it was a good game of football. I was very impressed with the two teams. I thought, Tyrone were particularly very good, and as Daniel said, the bench. I think we have to be very impressed with the impact that the subs made off the bench, and I think that's the way the thing's going now. Everybody's talking about what impact the subs are making coming on the field. Are they like the Dubs now? Like the subs they bring on are they as good as the players that they're taking off, which seems to be the case now in Tyrone. They have players in numerous positions. Like, I think the effect of Conor McKenna was very, very impressive. I think that score he done, he intercepted the ball in the full back line and absolutely exploded up the sideline. He gave it a 1-2 to a guy and absolutely up. There was flames behind the man up the road, and then he did the right thing by giving it to McCurry, who's in super form. But it just shows the athleticism of him. He was absolutely, the speed and the power he has on the ball. And I think a ball come out, a kick out in the second half, you could see the Aussie rules influence where he had the knee raised, and I think he hit him on the shoulder. I think Joe McQuillan gave him a free against him for putting the knee on your man's back. Like, I don't know why that is, but he was just up higher than everyone else. It was quite impressive. Excuse me. So, yeah, he come on. Cal McShane back on. trying to get it. Probably I heard the commentator saying he didn't get much play time, but as I said, Matty Donnelly really came into it in the second half, and he was doing a good enough job. So where did you put him? Very impressed with throwing it, but I thought the game was very pivotal on the few decisions. As Daniel said, the penalty, for instance, we sent the keeper. Michael Murphy sent the keeper the wrong way. If that had a creep in the corner, it was a different ball game altogether. Certainly, the Neil McGee injury was major too. He landed funny. I don't know how or what he injured. He seemed to do a hip or something or his back, and he seemed very, very tender and lame going off the field. And I think them two men going off in the first half so early was a major hit to Donegal's chances. If they had stayed in the field, I felt probably that Donegal could have stayed in the game longer and maybe could have had a better make of it in the second half. And they did have a wee purple patch. McBrearty was very quiet. I thought that Tyrone probably did a really good job on him. Claire McGeary, outstanding. His work rate, he was tackling, he was up and down the field, turning defence into attack, and his finishing was very good. His 3 points was exceptional. I suppose Daniel McCurry could probably feel a bit hard done by not getting the man of the match. McCurry got it, or McGeary got it, sorry. And like he 7 points, he 10 the last day, so 17 points in two games. And then I thought it was awful funny. He left the big F-bomb out in the interview with BBC. And his face just said 1,000 words. But Thomas Kane straight off it.
The world's gone mad that they cut him off. It's just the world has gone mad.
Yeah. Just cut him off straight away. Poor gas and trying to make up for it. But here, listen, here in the moment, I think we've all done a wee bit something like that there in the past. However, but I thought the game hinged on them couple of things in the first half, and it didn't go Donegal's way. And but then again, Tyrone had a couple of goal chances that they missed. Patton had a couple of good saves, albeit they were very close to them. They were straight down the middle. I think the lead up to that goal was very Stephen McDonald, Ronan Clark-esque back in the day. He got the flick on, and I think McCurry just managed to try to put it to the other side of the keeper, but it just didn't work. I think it was a good hand in at the end. But, impressed by Tyrone going in the right direction. Donegal probably a wee bit disappointing. But Tyrone, it's all in their favour going in against Monaghan, and what an Ulster final we have ahead. It'll be very interesting to see what way will it be as open as will Monaghan play as open as they did against the Armagh and the Armagh, or will we have that as Daniel said, the Fergal Logan and Dooher have changed the style a wee bit from Mickey Hart's time. They're playing that longer ball into the corners, bringing in the full forward line, hitting early ball in, and it's refreshing to see as well. So Tyrone have changed their way of playing, albeit they're coming up against a good seasoned Monaghan team now, and it makes for a really, really interesting Ulster final.
Yeah, definitely, Paul. I suppose what next for this Donegal outfit? I know Declan Bonner, there was a lot of pressure on him this year. Michael Murphy can't go on forever. I don't know, McBrearty don't really seem to be doing an over amount, probably should be doing more for Donegal. So, Paul, what next? Because we're looking at Ulster, Tyrone's already getting stronger, Derry's on the way up, Armagh's flying as well, Paul. So, I don't know, Declan Bonner, it's hard to know what's going on up there.
Yeah, it probably, there's a lot of things happening up there, I suppose. As you say, McGee's ticking on rightly. He's 34 or 5 or whatever he is, and Murphy, a lot of miles on the clock. But I think at the end of a cycle of a team, you always have these question marks over players. Is it the end of the cycle? This team was touted to win in All-Ireland last year and this year, up in the top 3. So I don't think it's probably the end of this team. I think there is more in them. I think there's more in Michael Murphy. I don't think he'll leave it like that. Neil McGee might have a good look at himself. I don't know. As Daniel says, him or Michael owe no one in the GAA anything. They've been absolutely fantastic for their teams over the years, and they owe no nothing. But I think Donegal. I think there's more in this Donegal team. I think if they can get the injuries cleared up, get all the players on board again, and go at the thing again, put the shoulder to the wheel, I think there's definitely more in them. I know you've mentioned that other teams are trying to make breakthroughs, the Derrys and Armaghs of the world and Tyrone. But I still feel Donegal are a very good team, and I don't think you might see too much change up there. But I think there's a lot of reflection to be done. I think there's a lot of work to be done in the background to get the team back to where they should be and where a lot of people thought they were, but it just didn't work out for them at the weekend. Yeah,
definitely. And we'll wait and see what next year brings them. And I suppose last thing on it, lads, the Ulster final, it's going to be in Croke Park, not St. Sheernix Park Clone. So that's exciting for both fans and I suppose everyone around the country, Paul.
Yeah, I was lucky enough, I suppose, to play in 3 Ulster finals in Croke Park, albeit it was sellout crowds. It was 60 and 70,000 in there, whereas they're just trying to fit in the numbers with the vast expanses of Croke Park. But ask any player in the country, where do you want to play football? You want to play in Croke Park, and it's a great experience to get down there and play in Croke Park. Fantastic surface, a fast pitch. You know, just going into the change rooms and seeing the facilities, being able to warm up in the wee room beside it, and going into have massive space, and it's a totally different experience probably to playing anywhere else in the country. And the right decision to get as many people in to watch the game as possible. I think we up in 20,000, is it?
I think so. Yeah.
In around that. So if it had been in Clones or it had been in Armagh, you know, you'd only even been talking 7,000, 8,000 or whatever it is. So you have another 12 or 13,000 to get in there, and yeah, it's great. It's great to get as many people possible into, and hopefully get as many families in as possible. You know, get the young people in there watching such a spectacle that is the final. And as I said, nowhere else suits or any other players want to play at bar in Croke Park. So it's great to see it.
100%. I suppose, Daniel, isn't it great that there's been a bit of common sense finally being used? Croke Park, at the end of the day, it can hold 82,000 people. Paul's referencing the fact there, 20,000 people. So it's about time, Daniel.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I think back in the day as well, the provincial championships, it's the whatever province and their committee, it's their day in the sun. And I suppose there's always been, even like you've seen some of the Connacht finals especially been played in some fairly poor stadiums back in the day. And look, this is definitely the right decision. I remember the games Paul's talking about, and I think you're the Cork man sent off Stephen O'Neill with 1 yellow before up there. You know, there are like great, like I think our man Tyrone one of those years did they have 3 games up there 1 year? Did they have a replay as well?
Yeah. We had the 2 Ulster final. We drew the Ulster final, then back to Croke Park, and then we had the semi-final there that year too. So
yeah, like
it was like a second home to us back then.
Yeah, like they're magical experiences. Like, and you know, people. That's one thing I always thought about when I finished up was, you know, the ability to play in there and just like it was like as Paul said, it's nearly a different game playing there. It was like a drug. Just, you know, it's a different buzz altogether to any other pitch in the country. And look, it'll put the Ulster final in a bigger spotlight. You'll have a bigger crowd in there. Be interesting to see how cagey you can be in Croke Park. It's a harder place to be cagey and kind of defensive. So you'd hope it'll lend itself to a very kind of flowing game of football again, and you know, 2 teams that are going to go at it and give a spectacle for everyone to watch, like the 2 semi-finals.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll not ask Kieran McGeary what it's like to play in Croker for the next few years. God knows what he'll say back to us. But
you're not allowed to caution podcasts.
The GA rang me this morning. The GA rang me this morning, Paul. It'll be banned. But yeah, absolutely. Lads, really looking forward to that one. And in the Leinster Championship at the weekend, you Kildare 2-14, Westmeath 18 points, and Daniel, Kildare's through for a Leinster final, and it's a nice time to play in the Dubs.
Yeah, it might. I wouldn't say it's a nice time, but it's there's a bit of hope there. Yeah, look, cracking game again. I think we've talked about this over the last couple of months that Westmeath are very good going forward. And look, they gave Kildare plenty of trouble, and I suppose Daniel Flynn kind of was the difference in the end with superb goal and brilliant ball into Jimmy Hyland for the second one. Probably was the difference in the game. In the end, Kildare only hung on. Just had, look, I suppose that bit more of craft up front, and defensively were a small bit better and got over the line. Again, it was Daniel Flynn and Neil Flynn were kind of the two bits of magic men that kind of got them over the line at the end. Also lost Kevin Feely, which looks to a serious knee injury, which isn't great going into the Leinster final against the Dubs. But look, I heard Jack O'Connor speaking after, and he said, look, that it's been a great year for them. They're up in Division 1 again. They're in a Leinster semi-final, and look, they're in bonus territory now, and they can have a go off the Dubs, and whatever the result, they'll be having a successful season. But it's a great way, as you said, to go into Leinster final with nothing to lose. Dubs may be looking vulnerable. We can talk about that in a minute, but obviously we'll take a monumental upset for this for Kildare to win Leinster.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose, Daniel, as well, it's great to see even the likes of Westmeath making strides. They had a great year. They're building. You have the likes of John Heslin, Jerry Egan, the boys leading the charge, Ray Cannell too, of course. So, Leinster's starting to finally get some teams, Daniel. Yeah,
it isn't. Looking, in fairness, if you take Dublin out of Leinster, it'll be a great championship every year. It lends itself to Dublin just being so far ahead of the whole country, not to mind the teams of Leinster. As I said, I saw Kildare beat Cork this year. Cork beat Westmeath, and very high scoring, entertaining game down in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, and good standard of football on show up both days, and lots of good forwards, which is great to see. And I think the game itself is thankfully going back to more kind of forward orientated kind of game, and you've lads racking up big scores again. The blanket defence has kind of gone away, and look, this Westmeath team, they have a good manager. They'll be back, and they're kind of on an upward curve as well. And look, as for Kildare, it'll be interesting to see now what, I suppose the benefit of this maybe for Kildare might suit them is if they don't get over Leinster, there's no back door, which might suit them in the sense that next year will be very sound footing to start on again, whereas you see a lot of times with teams, if they ship a big loss in a provincial final, the qualifier can be a drab affair, and they can go out with a whimper. And look, if Kildare run Dublin close, or there or thereabouts in the game, then look, I think it's been a very successful season for them.
Yeah. And what about yourself, Paul? Good win for Kildare.
Yeah, I suppose I only see the wee bit on the Sunday game, but they impressed me by, as I say, Daniel Flynn come on and was very impressive. A wee bit, I suppose, mirror image of what Conor McKenna did. Pace, power, athleticism, making chances, beating men. And as Daniel says, it is good to see the game developing from that sort of overly defensive sort of game to where players are prepared to take defences on, try and beat the line, and it does reap its own rewards. So we're moving that way. The cute old Jack O'Connor coming in under the radar and playing up the Dubs and playing up everyone else around him. But he'll be I don't think he realistically sees himself beating the Dubs, but I think if he can get in and get a rattle at them like what Meade done, I think he will be absolutely delighted. And as he says, he's making huge progress with that team and getting into Division 1 and that sort of progress, it breeds huge confidence in his team going forward. So as you say, he's happy where he's at. He's on a I suppose a hiding the knot, and I suppose going into the Leinster final, and he's nothing to lose. So it's all positive really for Kildare at this stage, and I think Jack O'Connor will be quietly confident. Did I mute something there?
Yeah, definitely. I'll do. We'll be really looking forward to that game and see how Jack O'Connor's men get on in the next game. Dublin 2-16, Meath 1-13, and Paul, for 7 minutes, football looked like it was being saved.
I told you there was cracks in the wall the last day against it was Wexford. Cracks are appearing, lads. There's hope for the rest of us. Yeah, well, listen, the first half was pretty much as the whole last 6 or 7 years have been going. An average aggregate of 16 or 18 points was on the cards, but whatever was said at half time, I would have loved a bit of fly on the wall in there to see what exactly he said to the guys to actually get them to turn the whole thing around, actually flip the thing around. And I don't know, was it a case of me just getting dug into them and Dublin absolutely taking the foot off the pedal? It must have been Dublin. It was obviously Dublin taking the foot off the pedal and didn't expect me to come out with the bit between the teeth. But by God, wasn't it great to see something happen? A bit of bite, a bit of, put them a bit on the pressure in the physical stakes, which probably a lot of teams haven't really done in a while, is actually get absolutely dug out of them and see where it takes them. I think if you're all going up against a team like that, if you're not going to beat them skillfully, let's see, can you beat them physically? Let's see where they are, see where their head's at, see is the discipline on point, see will they take the bait, see can you get a booking off them and maybe a second booking. You have to prod and probe and test out all the the properties of a team like that there. So they pushed a couple of buttons certainly, and they got it within a hair's roar of them, but ultimately they got their game together and managed to finish the game out. And I suppose they won by 6 points, but it wasn't the drubbing that everybody was expecting. And I think going forward, a lot of managers are going to be looking at these games and seeing what is it, what made them sort of take their foot off the pedal. Was it just themselves with a bit of complacency coming into the thing and jobbed on in the first half? Because usually when the Dubs have you against the wall, they grab you with the jugular and rip your head off, and they have no mercy on you, and they're very, very ruthless. But Meath showed a different side. They got stuck into them, asked a few questions, and it's a thing forward. I think teams are going to have to take a leaf out of their book going forward, and better teams than Meath could test them a wee bit closer. So I'm looking forward to. I think it'll be an All-Ireland semi-final before it happens. I don't think probably Kildare would have the same maybe effect on them, but a better team might going forward. But listen, the cracks are there, boys. The cracks are there.
You did call it, Paul. You did call it, and I suppose touching on two instances, it did happen. Obviously, Conor Lane, I think Meath were true for two on goal. Brian Fenton dragged the man going down. Penalty wasn't given. Brian Fenton went up there on the other end of the field. He was dragged down in the box. Penalty was given. So a fairly dodgy decision by Conor Lane, Paul.
Yeah, Conor got a fair bit of grief for that there. I've seen a few pictures on Twitter going around of Conor getting a bit of grief, and probably rightly so. Games like that, we were talking about Murphy missing the penalty, a 4 and 5 point turnaround. They get a penalty down that end of the field. Where would you end up? They'd be that bit closer. Conor Lane, poor decision, and you go up the field and then you're punished the other end. And that's what the game. Some games are decided on small decisions like that there. And I suppose Joe McQuillan got a few wrong as well. And I can't think of the referee's name but the referees do have a big bearing on games, and these big decisions are huge to teams. So them turnarounds, the penalty one end and then get up the other end and been punished. It really was a sucker punch to the challenge that Meath did have. So it's the small things, the inches we talk about, isn't it?
I think look, the interpretation of the rules is probably the most frustrating thing for players. I think even the Donegal game, it was outside the box, deemed a cynical foul penalty, yet there was a man back in front of him.
Yes.
So then the Dublin game, a pull down, free out for overcarrying straight down the pitch penalty. And that's what frustrates all the players. And look, I assume, and you'll always hear when you both back in the day when we were playing, you still hear it now that Croke Park have these memos to refs and that they're assessed constantly. But I don't know, is the standard of reffing in the good enough in the really key moments when the big decisions need to be made? You know, I think the interpretation from different referees of certain rules varies too much, and there's obviously still confusion there because you have some refs deem some fouls as anything robust around the head. If you usually up north you're left away, do what you want. Down Kerry, Cork, last couple of years there's frees given all the time, and I don't know, it's the same problems happening in the hurling. Some refs let the whole thing go, the refs pull frees for everything, and so it's one thing I think the J can definitely improve on is a kind of, I don't know, is it, do you go professional with the referees even to get the best quality product possible? Every other big sporting organisation has gone that way, so you know, maybe it's hard to pay referees when you're not paying players, but definitely is an area for improvement, big improvement.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think a thing always were said that going forward, like even back when we were playing, is that you know, you go through Ulster and it's a minefield and you're battered from head to toe from you know, 3 or 4 games, and then you come down to Dublin for an All-Ireland quarter-final, a semi-final, and you know, you begin in with the same zest and the same sort of challenges and getting punished for it. And it was that was the frustrating thing, as you say, the consistency between Ulster and Munster and Leinster and whatever was different. You know, definitely a far more physical game probably up north. And then we always thought coming down to Dublin and playing, you know, that you didn't get away with as much, you know, and they didn't let stuff go as much, which probably is very frustrating if the game, you know, we were playing beforehand, we weren't being penalised. So as you say, consistency through the refs. I thought there was something that the referees, a committee or something, that they did meet up and they were all, you know, this assess stuff. They're taking, some of them are just ticking their boxes, because if they don't tick these boxes, excuse me, they'll not get another game down the road. You know, a lot to be said for Pat McEnany over the years was that he would have let the game go, and he used common sense, and that's why he was probably one of the best referees that was out there. Whereas you come up against another game next week and he's you know, as I say, he's ticking boxes and he'd pull you on one thing and then the next thing he'd let you go, and then you don't know where you're at with them. I think, as you say, that is the very frustrating thing for the players on the pitch. And when you're on the pitch and the heat of battle, it goes to your head and you get a wee bit crazy over the thing.
And on top of it, then, to be fair to the referees as well, it's very hard for referees to apply themselves to high pressure games when the rules are being changed every year, and the different rules for leagues, the different rules for championships. It must be very difficult. Yeah,
it's a thankless job. And listen, I don't want to give out about referees, because I wouldn't be a referee, and there's a lot of people out there wouldn't be a referee, and it is a thankless job what to do, and they have a lot of stuff going on in the background, whereas they just probably want to get out and referee is the best of their ability, but they have someone on a top table giving them orders and barking stuff at them, so they have a lot probably on their plate as well. But listen, if they're happy enough to do it, fair play to them, and it's a thankless job.
Yeah, it really is. Connor just went down the wrong lane at the weekend, lads. It's just it's unfortunate stuff, but
oh, Jesus. Stop. Oh, that's cat.
That's brutal.
Daniel.
Can't believe you said that. Do you edit these before you put them out?
Daniel Goulding, can we learn anything from this dour Dublin performance on Sunday?
Look, I suppose as we continue to watch them through 2 games, though this could change, but the air of invincibility is gone. Talked about the Cluxton situation before, and there's no doubting Evan Comfort is a very, very, very good keeper, but Cluxton was almost there. I don't know what you'd call him, their lieutenant or their main man, the way I'd imagine he set standards in the dressing room, the way he set up every single attack to them. He's a huge loss, and look, I'm just looking at, even at their subs bench, look, you Tom Lehiff coming on, Sean Bogler, Pascal, Cian Murphy. That's not a bench that you usually hear Dublin bringing on. to close out games. Granted, no, they did close out the game handily, but the calibre of player they've had over the last 6 or 7 years, even on the bench, has probably reduced a small bit. And when you see the bench we talked about, Tyrone, the bench they brought on, they seem to have a lot more match winners there than Dublin do. So look, suppose that air of invincibility, and look, if you have in your head, if you can stay with the Dubs and ask questions of them with 10 minutes left, that look, there might be a chance to catch them. Again, look, it comes down to, I suppose, Kilkenny and Connacht-Callan are the two really that, like, you really, really have to keep them quiet going forward. And if you can't keep the two of them quiet, you're probably still not in with a chance of winning the game, because they're so influential and they just set up everything good about what Dublin do going forward, and the two of them really need to be stopped. But yeah, agree with Paul. There is a bit of vulnerability there with them. I still think they'll be Kildare handy when it comes to it, but be interesting to see, do the Dublin and Bowl come back when they get into semi-finals and finals, you presume, or will look, I think Kerry proved 2 years ago that they have the firepower to go at them and took them to a replay. So look, I think there's a good bit of hope, and I suppose a big nugget for the remaining provincial finalists here, that look, this is a year where Dublin could be knocked off their perch.
That'll be interesting. Well, I'll tell you what, you wouldn't want to rub the Dubs up the wrong way. So that's the last one, lads, I swear.
Rub the Dubs.
You're going to start trending on Twitter now soon if you're not careful.
I already am. This weekend, lads, Connacht final, Munster final, just like the old times. Connacht final, Galway versus Mayo, and Kerry against the Kingdom. Or sorry, Kerry against Cork. So the first game of the weekend, you've Galway against Mayo. And Paul, can Galway beat Mayo?
Why not? It's a final. It's a one-off game. I suppose Mayo will be going in. Probably, everyone's favourites to Galway. Is probably a team in the up. Paul Joyce doing great work with them. They've come through the few games. I suppose the few of them have come through the games. As we said, the championship has been very unbalanced, and as much in Connacht as is in Leinster and probably Munster also, but not much to hamper them to a certain extent. But I suppose you're really looking to see, is Mayo back to where they were a couple of years ago? Can they make a challenge to the Dubs? Galway is another up and coming team. Can we see them go and take the scalp off this Mayo team? I think Shane Walsh's injury, I don't know what way he is. I think he's serious enough.
Apparently they're saying he'll be fit, but we wouldn't. Can you read into that at the moment?
Yeah, probably Michael Murphy. Maybe he's influential for them, but will he play? It could all probably hinge on sort of what that comes about. But I think. I think still Mayo is probably to lose. We're going forward into it. Mayo are going fairly well, and I think really, I think it can be close enough up to probably the last 20 minutes. But I think Mayo will probably stretch it out and take the Connacht title again.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about yourself, Daniel? Galway against Mayo. It's a massive game this weekend. Both teams looking to make a massive impression, and I suppose, if Galway do get a win here, in the off chance, it's a great progression for Paul Joyce's men, Daniel.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of torn on it, being honest with you. Like, it's a hard one to assess, in the sense that Mayo have literally not got a hard challenge at all this year, be it in the league and championship. The questions haven't been asked of them yet without Cillian O'Connor. You'd hope that they're going to be asked this weekend, and if Shane Walsh is okay, like, Galway's forwards are very, very impressive to look at in terms of skill and scoring capability. And Matthew Tierney's looks like a diamond in the rough already, even only after making his debut last day. He was very good in the league as well. And Yeah, it looks going to be a very interesting game. Galway haven't hit the heights that they have in the previous couple of years yet, and look, this is the ideal game for them to go do so. I'm thinking off the top of my head here now. I think Galway could have a big performance in them, and that Cillian O'Connor maybe his loss. We might see it come to fruition now. Couldn't read into anything with Mayo with the last two games. Suppose Galway are going to go in here as underdogs, really. Not having played a huge amount of good football this year, and look, that can be a right driver for them as well, and they can get the bit between their teeth, and they can build a kind of a siege mentality going to the final, nothing to lose in Croker. Shane Walsh usually saves his best for Croke Park, and going to be a very interesting game. Imagine it'll be tight, maybe defensive. But yeah, do you know what? I think Galway might swing it. I think that there's one big performance in Galway where I think Pádraig Joyce is going to be under pressure.
Definitely. We will wait and see. And I suppose you made reference to interesting things there as well. No Cillian O'Connor, and I suppose Galway have had slightly better preparation that game against Roscommon, Daniel. They got an okay test, and I suppose Mayo's test against Sligo, and who did they play? Leitrim in the semi-final last weekend, Daniel. So I suppose the preparation is slightly better for Galway.
Yeah, look, and it's it was a very strange kind of championship, really. Like the two Mayo games were non-events after about 5 minutes, and Galway then met a Roscommon team that decided they just wanted to park a double-decker bus. So very, very funny kind of preparations for both teams. Yeah, I just think that the Cillian O'Connor factor, they've depended on him so much. I think this is the first time they're going to have to kind of win a game without him in a long time, and big challenge for them. And we'll see when the pressure really comes on. I think that they might get undone because of it.
Yeah. Well, an absolutely intriguing battle this weekend, and one we're really, really looking forward to in the next game, the Munster final. Kerry or Daniel, you played in about 51 of these games. What's it like for the players? What's the prediction, and how many points are Cork going to win by?
You.
Yeah, look, there'll be, I think there's 6,000 or 7,000 to load in there the next day down in Clarny. Looking, like usually we headed out to Clarny numerous times. The best we could ever get was a draw down there. I think it's been 20 something, probably going 22, 23 years now since Cork got a win down there. Yeah, always a huge day. Just brilliant stadium to play in. Kind of a bowl-shaped stadium, just a wall of noise, big mountains behind you, sunny day usually, and look, it's a huge challenge for Cork going down there, I suppose, given the way Kerry have been playing this year. Their forwards seem to have clicked, and Paddy Clifford has kind of transformed their team. They were small but one-dimensional before with Sean O'Shea and Clifford inside, but I think the brother has really kind of brought more fluidity to their game. But at the same time, look, I think we set it off air. Cork beat them last year. And also the year before, only lost by a goal in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. So you'd imagine Munster finals, Cork will up it. They're going in as underdogs, absolutely zero expected of them. I think they're 7 or 8 to 1 the bookies, which is nuts for a Munster final. And I'd expect a huge performance out of them. Mightn't be good enough on the day, but again, if they can keep in the game for the last 10-15 minutes, I think last year might play in Kerry's minds as well, and that's when it'll get interesting. I suppose what Cork need to do is up front, they need more kind of direct play. They need to get out of this lateral crossfield hand passing. Allows Kerry to set up defensively, and I'd like to even see maybe Mark Collins go back at centre forward. He was injured the last couple of weeks, or half injured and only coming on, but they need a heads up centre forward that can get ball into the lads inside, because the lads inside are dangerous. Brian Hurley and Dan O'Donnell and Luke Connolly. You'd expect Luke Starch, you'd expect a big game out of him, because turned over a lot of ball the last day, and look, I'd imagine he always plays well against Kerry and he'll want to make amends for the last day. And you know what you get off Maguire in the middle of the field. That's just the big thing for Cork is defensively they have to be so on top of their games and probably put in the performance of their lifetimes. Defensively this year Cork have been quite poor. So look, it's going to be a huge ask, but they've got a couple of fellas back now. Porter's going to be okay, I think. Sean Meehan will go back into centre back. Daniel O'Mahony was nursing hamstring injury. I think he'll be okay. Looking, I suppose, huge games for all those young lads. They're all still very young and new to the game, but no better place to learn. And I suppose if you're going into bare form, you think 7 or 8 point victory for Kerry. But look, Cork have proved the last 2 years that they can mix it with them, and you know it's going to be a very interesting game.
Yeah, and what about yourself, Paul? Kerry against Cork.
Yeah, interesting again. I think the game in itself takes on a whole different complexion because of what happened last year. As you say, I'm wondering what will be playing on the Kerry lads' minds, because Cork will have no fear in a one-off game of Kerry. I can't, even though you've mentioned the history there, Daniel, that's some history, 23 years, a long time, but I think after what happened last year, the Cork lads, I think they'll go into this game with as much optimism as any other year, because they know that on any given day that they couldn't put it up to Kerry. But I'll be very interested to see how the Kerry lads, approach the game and how they'll set up at the start. Will they be cagey? Will they go for it the way they've been playing? They've been scoring with just abandon there that this year. They've been fantastic. Everybody raving about Clifford and Sean O'Shea and all the boys, just chipping away at scores. Obviously not that big of a test, but if Cork can come up with one of them performances, as Daniel says, that puts them to the pin of the collar, and they're in there with the last few minutes, and who's to say we not get a last minute goal or whatever like last year? It'd be unbelievable for I suppose Leighton to strike twice. But I'm looking forward to this game. I'm looking forward to probably the mental approach to it, and in what way that Kerry are obviously everybody tipping them to beat the Dubs as they were last year. But, they were caught in the headlights last year and Cork cut the sucker punch. But it'll be a great spectacle, I think. I think it's great that it's down there, and that probably there's a few more people let in this year. Derryman refereeing, so he might let a bit go, Barry Cassidy. Hopefully he will. He let it go and let it be a bit of a spectacle for the rest of us. And, with the forward power that Kerry have been showing lately, it is very hard to look past them on paper, but as we say, this is Cork and Kerry, and Cork pipped them last year, and Cork were absolutely nowhere last year, and probably not really firing on all cylinders this year as yet. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to how they approach it. I'm looking forward to the setup, the matchups. Who's going to mark the Cliffords? Who's going to mark Shea? Who's going to make the difference? Who's going to make the plays? Cork have plenty of lads there that can cause them trouble on any given day. So it's going to be interesting. But if I was in Kerry's position, I think they'd have to be really have the bit on their teeth, especially after what happened last year. I think they're out this year to set a standard, to put out a message, and if any game they need to put out that message, it's on Sunday. So against particularly what happened last year, as I keep saying. So I'm looking forward to seeing are they capable of doing that on Sunday. But if they're not at their best, Cork will be on their coattails, and God knows what can happen.
That's the word going round, and you'd have heard it across the border that like Kerry have targeted this game all year, and this is where they lay down their marker, and that's fine. I suppose that's fine saying that, but the problem is if they don't do it, then that's when the bit of pressure comes on. And if you watch the Cork 20s and the Kerry 20s the last day as well, two totally different styles of football. Kerry intricate foot passing, Cork just pace and power, running at the Kerry defence, and Cork are going to need buckets of that the next day. They're going to have to make Kerry uncomfortable. They're going to have to turn them over and break at crazy pace and ask questions of Kerry's back. So I still think we're vulnerable, but I suppose you have to ask questions of them. If Cork go to contain Kerry like they did last year, I don't think it'll be good enough this year because Kerry will be too cute for it. But I think Cork have to ask questions from the word go at Kerry and just go at them. I don't think Cork are only going to win this game if they just throw total abandon to it. And that was the same with us. Anytime we got close to them down there, you just went for it. Just disregarded how Kerry were going, how many good players they had, and you just went for it. And Cork were going to have that mindset again.
Yeah. Well, lads, we cannot wait for that game, and we're hoping for two absolutely incredible finals this weekend, which no doubt they will be. And supposed to wrap up, Daniel, what would be your bet of the weekend and your player to watch this weekend?
Do you know what? Bet of the weekend, I'm going to go with Galway. I think Galway will turn over Mayo. Looking forward to seeing Matthew Tierney in the middle of the field for Galway. See can he back up his performance the last day. It'd be nice to see him kicking long range threes in Croke Park as well. And in the Cork game, look, I'd hope again I'll always flag Sean Potter as, you know, an exciting young lad to watch, and he was very good against Limerick again from cornerback, got 2 points, and I'd like to see him have a big game again because he's been dogged with injuries over the last couple of years, and his body really is robbing him of being one of the best players in the game. So yeah, look, Sean Potter as well. I'd like to see a big game out of him.
And what about yourself, Paul? The bet of the weekend and the player to watch?
I'm going with Kerry, and I'm going with Mayo because just think they have too much for the other teams. But as we discussed, on any given day it can be peculiar. But I'm not rooting for a player to watch. I think we'll have to go with Clifford this weekend again. Let's see, can he do it on a big day again? He is a big game player. He's special. Not as special as Rain, but he's special. So we'll see. Can he come up with the goods now again on Sunday? And as you say, Daniel, a game that probably Kerry have been targeting. I like the way you say it, over the border. That's not like we say up here. I should have said the county bones. So yeah, looking to see David Clifford back up his reputation again, and I think we'll go with the favourites this weekend. I think that's the way it's going to go.
Absolutely. Well, lads, thanks a million for joining me this week. And of course, this podcast is sponsored by orgoretro.com. Use my promo code JMAC podcast to get 15% off on the website. Daniel, Paul, thanks a million.
Cheers, lads. Take care.
Cheers, boys.
All the
best.